Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research, and I'm here at Zenith Live 2026. That's a Zscaler's user event. I'm with one of the users, Markus Hill, CIO of Rodgers Builders. This is Zenith Live number 4, you said?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk a little bit about technology and things like that. But before we get into that, though, just a quick bio on yourself and who Rodgers Builders is.
Rodgers Builders is a construction management firm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been around for 63 years. We primarily do mission critical type projects, lots of healthcare. We work mainly in the Carolinas, and I've been with the company for 22 years.
Yeah, well, nice. Yeah, and what's your relationship with Zscaler? Which products do you use?
We use ZIA, ZPA ZDX, ZTB, Cloud Connector.
Well, a lot of them.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And now, let's start a bit with just your industry, right? So in your industry, building trust is actually literal.
Yeah, really,
right?
it is.
When you think about it. And so, but from an IT perspective, how has the definition of trust changed at your organization now? Because I was reading that your workforce is now spread across 5 regional offices. You have 20 active. Yeah, moving project sites. And so just talk about the concept of trust, how it's changed.
I think a lot in construction has always been seen as a laggard in overall industries from use of technology. Yeah. And I think that's not been because of not wanting to adopt the technology. I think doing technology in a construction job site is a very tough thing. And I think the thing that we focused on is because we do a lot of very complex projects, you run into needs for technology. Like instead of just like when I first started there 22 years ago, we worked off 2D plans, and they'd have people that would go in with a colored marker, and they would mark out the doors and mark out the windows, and they'd go back and physically count those. Then we went to like an automated system of doing that, so that you're doing the same thing on a computer screen. Now we build everything in 3-dimensional models. We use augmented reality, we use extended reality, all to help our teams understand the project complexities, and also help our clients understand the project complexities that they run into. So from a trust standpoint, anytime you're using more systems, you've got more risk. And that's how we came to Zscaler. Honestly, it was an accident.
Sales seems like you're that.
No, I mean, the truth's the truth. Yeah. I mean, we looked at Zscaler in 2019. We were looking for something to give us visibility.
More from pretty young in their history too.
Yeah. We were just looking for something that would almost give us visibility in where we were going on the web, how to kind of shape that traffic so that, we're trying to maximize bandwidth. COVID comes along, and we had deployed ZPA before COVID hit, but we didn't really know what it was. Then during COVID, we started backing off traditional VPNs and going to ZPA, and the end users loved the fact that it was simpler for them. And then I came to the conference in 2022, and I learned about application segmentation because that wasn't part of our POV. I sat out in the hall outside of where the conference was going on after I learned about it and started segmenting our network. 23, we found out ZDX. Again, it was based on need more than anything else, because essentially what happened was, like a lot of other companies, were getting calls from, hey, Teams isn't working, Zoom isn't working, and being able to kind of do something besides reboot your computer, that didn't play, it gave us the knowledge or actual data to be able to say, here's what's going on. Okay, it looks like you may be a long way from your home access point, move closer or something like that. So that's how the journey started. And then we made a decision to try. We have 30 projects, the thing
sites,
at any given time. And over the years, those have changed. I mean, the number of sites is pretty much the same. The volume per site is kind of increased. So we decided we would test on a couple, not putting in the firewall, not putting in the layer 3 switches and all that other stuff, because the thing we were looking for was driving simplicity. It got to the point that...
That's the holy grail in IT, right?
Yeah, I mean...
It never gets simpler.
No, it doesn't. But the thing where we had ended up was, it got to a point that we knew every configuration, to a point that we were having to use consulting because the configurations had got so difficult and so complex. And if we changed one thing, we were afraid of... So it drove cost, it drove complexity, and just the thing of not knowing. Because, it was a small, construction IT firms or departments are generally small. So I wear a lot of hats. So I like to understand exactly what's going on, and being able to see that with Zscaler, it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, it just worked. We went out to the first project, it worked. Within 4 months, all of our projects were not using firewalls. They were not using...
So talk about that. So from what I understand, you've gone through a pretty big WAN transformation. You had 30 sites that are always on the move. Prior to Zscaler, you had that traditional firewall, VPN, SD-WAN model that everybody has.
Right.
What did you find with what was it not letting you do?
With the...
Yeah, with that old model.
The old model, the big thing was the complexity. I mean, it was like, it was the cost associated with it. Support contracts, that piece of it. And it was just, the biggest thing was latency. Not in the network, but latency to the project. Because we pretty much had to either find some hardware, reuse a kit, or have a new one built. And then you're waiting on lead times for equipment and everything else. With a new model, they go out, we get broadband, they got client connector on their machines, and they're up and working day one. Instead of having to wait, okay, we finally got, broadband connectivity or whatever connectivity we put in, then a lead time off of that to get the rest of the network in place. So now they're working the first day. The other thing that we looked at was our regional offices after that, and that was a tougher thing. And we thought, well, some of our regional offices are fairly small. Some of them are larger than our largest project sites, but we thought if we would work at those, it would work at this one, and it did. So we replaced all the legacy hardware.
Yeah, so from what I understand, all that's gone.
All that's gone.
You moved to this cafe-like model, which Zscaler's really been maybe the evangelist for. And so, when you think about the day in the life of your employees now, so they walk into a field office, what does access for them look like today versus what they had before?
Well, see, the great thing about it is, and again, I had to look up SASE. I didn't even know what it meant. But I knew what I wanted. And what I wanted was, I didn't want location to matter. I wanted who to matter. I wanted what to matter. And that's, there's no difference between an employee at home, at a hotel, even at our office. We don't even consider our office networks.
One way to access regardless of where you are.
Yeah. It's always the same thing. And I mean, that's the way as a company we approach all our processes. We try to standardize as much as we can so that there's not a different way that you connect at one project versus another.
Yeah, and from what I understand, you also implemented fine-grained app segmentation. And in construction, you deal with your internal employees, but you've also got contractors, architects, some kind of things like that come on the network. And so how has app segmentation allowed you to control policy and access without getting in the way, right, of project collaboration?
The great thing about that is we made it as seamless as possible. I mean, if somebody needs to get to the data center, we use security groups. And if you're in this security group, you get ZPA, so you get access to the data center. The majority of our employees don't need access. So that's the first way we did it. So again, there's no real difference for them. For the employees that needed access to it, then again, we've broken out the application segments. The thing that we've helped with this to the next level is headquarters. Headquarters is a little different animal because we've got some resources there that we need to access remotely. And also, again, construction's a very friendly industry. People will just plug in. Guests will plug in, and the thing we always worried about is the east to west traffic between You got bugs, friends.
Yeah.
People would plug in and how we could control that. And we started looking at branch connector, and then started hearing about zero trust branch connector, or zero trust connector, zero trust branch. So we started piloting with that in January, February of this year. And it was going well, but I didn't have the confidence, the courage, whatever you want to call it, to switch over. And at the same time we're doing this, we're also implementing a new ERP system, or upgrading an ERP system.
A lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And Murphy was the greatest optimist ever. So the day that we were getting ready to get started, we're checking off the final things on the ERP, our SD-WAN goes down.
Oh.
The carrier wasn't able to give us any time frame. So I made a decision the fastest thing would be move the fiber connection from the test network into the live network. And it worked. It came up. But we needed to switch back because of a printer that needed direct access to the data center. So we switched back. A couple of days later, SD-WAN went down again. This time we decided, okay, we're not going to play this game anymore. We carved out the segment that connected to the printer. Everything else we moved to ZTB, and we went back. And then when we finally went live, we just moved the other segments over. But I mean, I was scared to do it. I was amazed at how easy it worked. The thing that shocked me more than anything else,
well, that probably gave you the conviction, right, to do it.
Yeah. Well, necessity drives everything, and we needed to be working on the ERP. We didn't have time to chase issues with, an SD-WAN carrier, and I think that's one of the things that I like about ZTP. It gives us the functions that we need and some extra. But the complexity in the SD-WAN, there's just so many buttons, so many toggles that you can set. And it's really hard to figure out, which one did I press? Where ZTP is a whole lot more straightforward.
Yeah. Now, you're on the IT side, so you love security, you love simple access. CFOs, though, love efficiency and cost reduction, right? And so when you think about the reduction in hardware that you've had, probably the savings on circuits, the increase, in user experience, are you able to, at least talk about how this shift to Zscaler has paid off for you?
Yeah, I think, one thing is, I think most CIOs are very in touch with budgets.
Yeah.
and I think that was, the way that I approach budgets is I pay for what, you have to pay for what you want with what you save. And that's one of the things that we were able to do with the whole Zscaler is we saved significantly over support contracts. Essentially, our savings in support contracts paid for Zscaler. Then everything else was icing.
That's a pretty telling statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and one of the, one area that I think Zscaler could do better is focusing more on the small markets, because we're considered a mini in their world. Anything under 1,000 users, and we're only right at 400 users now. But being able to market more to folks in that space, especially with, again, I've tried to avoid the acronym AI coming on. I think you're going to see more small companies that are going to have bigger needs. And it'd be nice to see more attention to the space, because a lot of people say, well, it's so expensive, but you got to look at that whole cost piece of it to understand, what you're saving. We saved 80% on our networking across the board. We've saved, every job site had a very nice firewall and a very nice layer 3 switch. And you take 30 of those, 40 of those out of commissions, all the routers for, traditional networking and everything else, all that's gone.
Yeah, I think the maintenance paying for Zscaler itself is a pretty common statement. Now, you mentioned that 2-letter word AI. This might be the longest I've gone in an interview without talking about AI, but at Zenith Live 2026 here, the company has positioned Zero Trust as really that foundation for the AI era. And so now that you have this kind of modernized environment in place, I guess what's next for you? How are you thinking about how you can leverage that to bring AI in securely, right, without putting the business at risk?
I mean, AI governance is something where I think everybody's grappling with. And the thing that was very encouraging about what I saw in the first day keynote was, I think it answers some of the questions. I mean, we'll have to play with the technology and see how it works in reality, but that's a good start.
Yeah.
I think we're just trying to figure out where it's going.
Are you getting a lot of pressure from your higher ups to want to use it?
Yeah.
The construction, I mean, the modeling capabilities, all digital twins got to be huge, right?
It is, but I think they're taking a very good approach, a very measured approach. And the way we address something like this is with a committee, and we have lots of oversight as far as making sure that we're doing things to protect our company, but also protect our clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you have people inside using it, any kind of shadow AI being used? Or with 400 employees, it's somewhat easy to manage, but people still want to use these tools, right?
Yeah, I think that you have that. I think we use Zscaler to control that and limit that. And we'll make AI available to any employee that comes in with a business case that says, this is what will help me do my job. We vet it. We make sure that we understand the terms and conditions and what the privacy policies. But if all that checks out, then we support it.
And of the announcements here this week, did any of them catch your eye? AI graph, things like that?
The AI graph was very impressive.
Yeah.
That really...
well, it shines the light on all the AI being used, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I mean, what we came to Zscaler for originally was visibility. And I think the comments from Zscaler CIO about, you got to be able to see it before you can protect it. That really resonated.
Yes, and that's true. And so last question, Markus. So you went through this journey where you said it took you a while to get conviction, right? And you're not alone in that, right? There's a lot of people with these traditional networks. So if you have a piece of advice to my audience on, how to go through this process, but yet get that conviction without putting your company at risk. If you could do something again, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the thing I should have done to begin with was put aside what I thought. I mean, I think that sometimes we get so focused in the box, and my box was castle and moat, and I was trying to use Zscaler in that same model. And you got to look at it differently, and you figure out how to pay for it based on, I was assuming, okay, I'm still going to have to pay this, I'm still going to have to pay this, and then it's an add-on. And I think when you look at it from a standpoint of, it's not really an add-on if you go in and see what it replaces.
Yeah, no. In fact, what you're saying isn't unlike other interviews I've done. In fact, a couple of Zenith lives ago, I talked to the CISO of an insurance company who had made the switch over. And I said, when you first turned off those firewalls, didn't it scare you? He goes, it scared the what out of me.
Yeah.
He couldn't sleep. But he also knew architecturally, there's no reason it shouldn't work.
Right. But it's still, when you've done something for 20 years, 30 years like I have, it's a stretch.
Yeah. No, well, obviously change is good, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your story with me.
I appreciate your time.
Really appreciate it. Anything else you want to add? Last words, I think?
No, I'm just, definitely give Zscaler a shot.
Yeah, okay. So anyways, on that note, on behalf of Markus Hill, CIO at Rodgers Builders, I'm Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research, and thanks for watching. Give us a like and also hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time on an episode of ZKast. Thanks, Markus.